Good morning, everyone. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer hearings for Wednesday, March 30th, 2011. My name is Kristen Asp, and I will be conducting the hearing as Planning Hearing Officer. We have two cases on the agenda today, and any relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. But first, I will make an announcement about the first item on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is for a standards variance and conditional use permit at 3431 Linda Vista Road. Applicant is Edward Hagobian. Property owners are Crystal Properties, and briefly the project description is an application for a conditional use permit to construct a new 3,158 square foot single family residence and attached 609 square foot garage on a vacant lot in the R1R zoning district with an average current slope exceeding 50% and where more than 1,500 cubic yards of earth material are proposed to be moved. There's also a standards variance to provide a driveway with a slope exceeding 20%. This item, or this first agenda item, is going to be continued for 1 week to the very next hearing, which is April 6th, Wednesday, same time here in this location. It is going to be continued without further public notice. And I don't have any speaker cards on it, but just wanted to make that announcement. Okay, so for the rest of the agenda, we have a conditional use permit application as well. How this hearing is gonna run, there's a number of findings that need to be made for a conditional use permit. If the evidence presented in the application and at this hearing meets the criteria, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, placed in the local newspaper, and posted on the city's website. As far as today's hearing, I will read a description of the application, of the request. I'll read any relevant comments from other city departments and any other correspondence from interested parties. The case planner will then make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again stating both name and address, and we'll have a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired, and in response to any testimony given by the preceding speakers with a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will then be closed and taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date that appears on the letter, not necessarily the date of this hearing. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the decision date, and the notice of appeal shall be filed with the Building and Safety Division located in this building, the Municipal Services Buildings, room 101, just across the courtyard here. Speaker card. I see that a lot of you have filled this out, but if you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided at the front door. And I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearings are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Okay, so now for the actual case. The This is a conditional use permit, case number PCUP 2011-006, located at 117 South Louise Street. The applicant is the Armenian Society of Los Angeles, care of AMAC Group. Property owners are the Armenian Society of Los Angeles. Description is an application for a conditional use permit to permit banquet hall activity, including on-site sale, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages within a new 3-story multi-purpose cultural center located at 117 South Louise Street in the downtown Specific Plan, Maryland District, described as lots 9 and 11, Block 58, Town of Glendale tract. Any comments and/or conditions from other departments? Start with police. They have listed several conditions related to no exterior signs advertising sale or service of alcoholic beverages be permitted. That the facility shall not be rented, leased, or otherwise occupied for purposes not specified in the application. The owner shall provide and employ security guards on the premises at a minimum ratio of 1 security guard during events with more than 50 people in attendance. Thereafter, a minimum of 1 additional security guard for every 50 additional people in attendance. And that the security company shall have valid licenses with the state for those purposes. That all music, lighting, or other sound produced shall not be audible to disturbed persons in other occupancies or businesses or on the public right-of-way. Make sure that they comply with all regulations from the Department of Alcoholic and Beverage Control. Limiting the hours of consumption of alcoholic beverages between 11 a.m. and 2 a.m. And water and power. Some just general comments about fire line service. Some fees, some standard looking conditions. Environmental management from Public Works. Just a comment that I think for the kitchen services and related to grease, that they meet all the requirements of the Building and Safety Division. No grease in the storm system. Traffic and transportation. Just a comment that if valet operation is ever wanted in the future, the applicant shall contact the Traffic and Transportation Division for any applicable permits. Integrated waste has no comments. Engineering, no comments. No conflict. And electrical has no comments. So those are the comments from the other divisions, and I will now ask the case planner to summarize. We'll take testimony from there.
Thank you. Today's case is in regards to a proposed banquet hall activity use with associated alcohol sales, service, and consumption at a new 3-story multi-purpose cultural center located at 117 South Louise. The project site is located in the downtown Specific Plan area, the Maryland District. It is bordered on the east and by, as you'll notice in the aerial photograph shown on the TV screen, that is bordered on the east by the public parking structure, on the north by a low-scale auto-related use, and right now there's a dirt parking lot shown on the screen. However, that is now currently under construction as a mixed-use development. On the south by the Glendale Presbyterian Church, and on the west by a small-scale multifamily residential building and associated parking lots. Those would be parking lots for the church use as well. The project itself came to fruition from a memorandum of understanding, and this would be an MOU between the city and the ASLA, the Armenian Society of Los Angeles, that was previously located at 221 South Brand Boulevard. With this memorandum of understanding, there was the conveyance of agency-owned parcels to the ASLA group and a one-time settlement agreement to actually move ASLA, which previously had classrooms, facilities, a meeting hall use, offices, and associated other type of uses with that particular club organization on South Brand Boulevard, which actually was incorporated as part of the new Americana Town Center. And ASLA was actually conveyed these particular two parcels on South Louise in exchange for that relocation. The Glendale Redevelopment Agency approved the Stage 1 and Stage 2 design aspects. This was back in 2006 and 2007. There was a building permit issued in 2007, and the project was recently completed and was actually granted a zoning use certificate for a cultural arts center, but with no alcohol sales and no banquet hall activity. Banquet hall activity and alcohol sales or service and consumption is permitted in the downtown specific plan area, the Maryland District, with an associated conditional use permit. In terms of and I'd like to make one clarification, the zoning code essentially lists alcohol service, sale, and consumption as one general umbrella type use. And so, according to code, we are presenting it as this type of, by definition, alcohol sales, service, and consumption. Yet what's being proposed is actually alcohol service and consumption on site in association with the banquet hall use. And so there will not be any type of off-site sale or on-site sale being proposed as part of this conditional use permit. The conditional use permit is required to provide 4 findings, and then the alcohol-related use has an additional set of criteria, which in order to approve the CUP for alcohol sales, use, and banquet hall facilities, all of these findings must be met. And what I'll do is I'll just go ahead, briefly go through the required findings and the staff's analysis that was presented in the staff report. And then I will go into the draft conditions of approval. The first finding is that the proposal be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the city's general plan. The land use element for this particular section is the downtown specific plan. It is located in the downtown specific plan Maryland District, as I just mentioned. The Maryland District is basically a combination of entertainment type uses, restaurant, retail, and service uses, with the possibility of mixed-use residential development and convention meeting facilities as well. The City Council just recently adopted the Maryland Arts and Entertainment District, which is, though not located on Louise, it's one block west on Maryland itself, and so that's specifically geared to have an arts and entertainment type use. And so the land use categories permit banquet hall activity and alcohol sales. It would be compatible with the adjacent uses, obviously, on Maryland Avenue. And I will go into other items as well in terms of the land use cross impacts type items. I would like to also note that the proposed on-site alcoholic beverage service and consumption is going to be ancillary to the banquet hall use, and so it's not going to be the primary use. It is in conjunction with the classrooms, associated offices. There's a small cafeteria on site, and so this is part of a more multi-purpose building, and it will be not the primary use, but one of several uses on site. The other uses on site are permitted by the zoning code, such as classrooms, offices, mixed classrooms, and again, a library and cafeteria as well. Second item, that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the public health or safety and the general welfare and will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede their normal development. The ASLA organization was found not to have any issues in regards to negative impacts on their previous site at 221 South Brand Boulevard. It is a cultural organization devoted to the Armenian youth and also other other type of adult aspects as well. It was a multi-purpose building, and so now that they have relocated, it's still going to be a multi-purpose center associated with such as lectures, classrooms, and offices. So it's not anticipated to be detrimental to the public health and safety and general welfare. There is residential development directly across the street to the east. There is also residential under construction residential development to the north of the auto-related use. We'll note that the building itself, and you'll notice that the plans are posted up behind on the board. The building itself was designed not to have any openings along the side interior property lines, so there are no windows or doors along the side. Also, there is, at this point in time, the parking associated with the proposal is actually located within the public parking structure directly to the rear across the alley. That was part of the original MOU of the Memorandum of Understanding with the ASLA, that the city convey an associated number of parking spaces. In this case, the ASLA Society has 256 parking spaces within the parking structure to the rear. There was a specific condition of approval made that the parking structure have a specified opening to allow for patrons to cross from the parking structure to the rear of the ASLA building. There are also 14 associated spaces on site, and that's within the building. You'll notice, based on the first floor plans, I'm going to go directly to the site here. There are, essentially this would be the first floor of the ASLA building. You have parking that is accessed off the rear alleyway. It is a one-way circulation pattern with 14 spaces, and then directly across the alley is the parking structure here, so that individuals would cross over, either park within the 14 spaces or have some sort of drop-on or drop-off type service here, and then allow the individuals to proceed. So all the parking will be off the rear alleyway. I'll note while I'm still standing up here by the hunt that the banquet hall facility, the rooms themselves are on the second floor directly to the rear of the building. And so again, any type of noise or undercurrent is actually going to be located away from Louise Avenue and blocked by the two solid walls on either side. There are also conditions of approval that have been proposed to help mitigate any type of adverse impacts, and those would include hours of operation, security measures to prevent any type of public nuisances, whether they be fights or anything along those lines. There are also conditions of approval relating to the noise ordinance, the city's noise ordinance, and also in addition to that, all type of banquet hall uses must be sponsored by an ASLA member that actually is signing for the particular banquet hall activity. So the names will be on record. The ASLA is also required to provide 3 contact numbers to the police department, the planning department, and other various departments in case there are any issues that might arise, so that we have direct access, and that ASLA will be responsible for any and all type of activities within their premises. I would also like to note at this time that although there are residences within the area, well, that would be actual individuals residing in the downtown area, there is this sort of assumption that when you are residing in the downtown area, you're going to have essentially, you will be experiencing a variety of commercial uses in this case, and that would include such things as either a restaurant or banquet hall or alcohol-related use. Also to note, in regards to the impacts, the project itself was routed for review, not only during the design review stage back in 2006, 2007, but it was also routed for environmental concerns, and it was rerouted again for this particular application for the conditional use permit for alcohol sales and banquet hall activity. In those 3 different routings for interdepartmental comments, any type of comments that were received were actually addressed either as mitigation measures towards the environmental initial study that was prepared. And again, this was Mitigated Negative Declaration PEIF 2010-006. That mitigated negative declaration had some mitigation measures in regards, and those primarily the mitigation measures were in regards to construction type related activities such as noise, dust, traffic concerns at that point in time. Those mitigation measures have been addressed. Obviously, construction has been finished, but no other type of negative comments from other various city department staffs have been received other than operational type issues such as from the police department that you read into the record. Forgive me, I thought this would be a quick summary, but I felt the fact that there are so many individuals in the audience, both, that I thought it would be best if I address all of these little nuances. Okay, the third finding of fact would be that adequate public and private facilities, such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures be provided. Again, this was all reviewed during the construction and entitlement process. They have adequate landscaping. The number of parking spaces required met code requirements for this multi-purpose tenant use. Again, there are 256 spaces that are conveyed as part of the MOU within the public parking structure, 14 spaces on site. Traffic was reviewed during the environmental review period, and the multi-purpose room, which is approximately 5,000 square feet of the whole approximately 36,000 square foot building, was assessed at that point in time. The Overland traffic consultants found that there would be no significant traffic issues regarding the proposed use. They looked at peak hours of operation, the peak hours being weekday traffic in the morning from 7 to 9 and then from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And so there were no negative impacts found on adjacent street intersections in the area. And again, parking was provided for. Last but not least, and these is specifically in regards to the required additional findings for alcohol-related uses. The first one is that the proposed use not be in an ABC license in a high concentration or high crime rate census tract. This particular project is located in census tract 3022.01. Census tract, according to the ABC guidelines, allows for 4 on-sale type uses. There are currently 19 on-sale establishments within the census tract. The city's policy is to look at the downtown as being somewhat of an area that is encouraging not perhaps encouraging, but allowing for additional alcohol-related licenses because the downtown is specifically devoted for entertainment, arts, concentration of restaurants, alcohol sale type uses. In regards to the crime statistics, this particular census tract has, as reported for 2010, that would be 2010, there was 78 crimes, and that's the same exact number of crimes reported the citywide average. So essentially, it's the same number as the citywide average. It's not considered in a high crime because otherwise it would be above the city's average by 20%. In this case, it's exactly at the city's average. The development is located across, and then these are sensitive items, next to a church, a preschool, or multifamily residential uses. So there is going to be some sort of interrelatedness just because of the proximity of the proposed banquet hall use to the church, to adjacent multifamily residential uses. But again, there are specific hours of operation. There are design aspects that were already mentioned, such as no openings along the side. The front courtyard is such that there is to be no valet service, so the activity will not be, hopefully, along Louise. There is also a condition of approval that requires that all doors along Louise remain closed during any type of banquet hall activity uses. Because of the city's smoking ordinance, unfortunately, no smoking will be permitted in that front courtyard area, so you will not have individuals congregating in that small courtyard area directly in front, such as smoking, and the doors are closed, and so hopefully there will, all the activity will remain inside the building. So those are, again, are conditions to prevent any possible conflicts with adjacent uses. And lastly, in regards to the additional parking, to the additional issue regarding that all required parking be provided for, it is as previously stated. So based on the analysis, staff is recommending approval with conditions. The conditions, there are 28 proposed conditions of approval. Many of them are just standard conditions of approval, that all required licenses be obtained, that all of the conditions of approval for such licenses, whether they be the federal, the state, and this would include the alcohol beverage control, the ABC licenses, that all of them be kept current, that we have records of all of them. Conditions specific to this particular use would be that the premises shall be operated and maintained as a banquet hall use. And again, what the zoning code is very specific when it comes to a banquet hall use, because it's essentially a facility for private party events where access by the public is restricted. Private party events are by invitation only and not through ticket sales, cover charges, donations, or contributions. The city's zoning code defines a nightclub use as being a facility open to the general public whereby any persons can attend free of charge or by means of purchasing a ticket, paying a cover charge, or making a donation or contribution. So this particular distinction between a private party event, which is a banquet hall use, versus a nightclub use, is actually incorporated as a condition of approval. This would only be used as a banquet hall use, so they would not be able, ASLA would not be able to use this as a nightclub. They would not be able to charge individuals to come in or sell ticket sales or whatnot. This would have to be, again, as a banquet hall use for the ASLA property. It would have to, the facilities would not be able to be rented out or leased for any type of other, for a nightclub use, so that even though it's not sponsored, it has to be sponsored by an ASLA individual. There are specific hours of operation. These were actually obtained from the environmental review. At the time, ASLA was required to submit a set of proposed uses on site and proposed hours of operation. It was taken a look at that Monday through Friday, the banquet hall, the multipurpose room, would not be used only after, it would be used only after 7 p.m. Those were proposed as hours of operation, that Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. for the multipurpose room, banquet hall use only. Now, again, these hours of operation would only be limited to the banquet hall use, to the multipurpose room. These would not apply to smaller uses such as the offices or the libraries. And the hours of operation on Friday to Saturday, for Friday to Sunday, would be 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. That would be consistent with the hours of operation that were actually discussed as part of the original environmental review. Other conditions include that alcohol beverage sales, and I want to retract that. It's not beverage sales. It's the alcoholic beverages shall be served and consumed on site within the building and only during banquet hall events and activities. So again, it would not be the on-site sale. It would be the serving and consumption in conjunction with a banquet hall type activity. There's no alcoholic beverages to be sold within the first floor cafe. There was an inclusion of various police requirements that were proposed, such as security guard measures, noise impacts, no exterior signage and whatnot. And that the ASLA is to monitor the area under its control in an effort to prevent the loitering of persons about the premises. The ASLA board shall not permit any public nuisance at the premise or adjacent areas outside the premise, including the front courtyard and rear alley, that the management and staff and employees strictly responsible for security on site and for preventing any criminal activity. The proprietor and their employees shall make an active and conscientious effort to keep employees and customers from trespassing on any nearby properties. The parking area should be well lit. Premises it should be maintained in a clean and orderly condition, free of weeds and trash and debris, no outside storage, that a new zoning use certificate be obtained and this zoning use certificate would then clarify that the Cultural Arts Center would essentially be allowed to have banquet hall uses with the serving and consumption of alcohol. Once and if the CUP is approved, that any expansion or any modification of this use in facilities would require a new conditional use permit application or be amended through the code enforcement process. And last but not least, now the 2 points. One is that the previous ASLA facility on Brand Boulevard had a Type 51 license, which is a club license. It's not an on-site sales, service, and consumption such as a restaurant. So this is a club license by the ABC department as a Type 51. We are recommending that the same type of license be issued for this particular proposal. So it would be for the club use only. And the original MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, requires that ASLA own and operate and occupy this particular building for a period of 5 years from the time of occupancy, certificate of occupancy issuance. And so as most alcohol beverage sales, CUPs, there's usually a time limit that's established, for the CUP. In this case, staff is proposing to use that same time limit of 5 years as listed in the MOU for this conditional use permit. So after a 5-year period, then the operator has the ability to go ahead and renew the conditional use permit, but it would be reviewed in a new conditional use permit application in a new review period. That concludes, I apologize, a much more detailed staff report or staff presentation than anticipated, but hopefully I've answered all the questions that you may have, but I'm available to answer any more if you have any.
Thank you. I have several speaker cards, so I think let's get to it. And I guess I have a question of who from the applicant or representative side would like to go first.
May I interject one last time? I apologize.
Yes, please.
Okay. I apologize for cutting off. There was a settlement agreement that was recorded in the courts between three parties. This would be the Glendale Presbyterian Church, which is located directly south of the project site, the Glendale Redevelopment Agency, and the Armenian Society of Los Angeles. This was a court settlement, so all of the conditions within the court settlement are binding by the courts. So all interested parties have agreed to this particular court settlement, and all conditions of approval must be met as part of the court settlement. Many of the, not many, but all of the conditions relating to alcohol use, such as that, and this would be in the court settlement that ASLA agrees not to sell or distribute alcoholic beverages at the project site, that it needs a CUP for banquet hall, that they will serve alcohol beverages only under the following set of conditions, that it be consumed on site, no serving of alcohol on the ground floor, all events of alcoholic beverages sales will be sponsored by an ASLA event, events at which alcohol is served shall not have a commercial for-profit use. And it goes on with the list. Those alcohol-related conditions have been proposed as part of the conditions of approval for the CUP. So I just wanted to make aware there are other conditions that were incorporated in the court settlement, but those are court binding, and those dealt with such things as intersection lighting and whatnot. And so those still have to be met, though they are not part or discussed with this particular CUP process.
Okay.
Okay, then we're done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll try this again. I have two cards, one for Tom, one for Serge.
Yes, I'm Serge Adamian.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm with 117 South Louise, representing the Armenian Society of Los Angeles. I'm here to thank on behalf of Dr. Von Greger, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, who could not make it today. He wanted that I thank on behalf of the association for the hard work that staff of City of Glendale did for this CUP application, also for during the entire project that brought the project into completion. And this building has become an asset, not only for the ASLA, but also the general community in Glendale. So just thank again. I mean, I'm passing this message. I just want to add that this society, our ASLA, has been in Glendale for over 3 decades. We have functioned here. Alcohol use as an ancillary use is not the only activity that we have. We have classrooms, we have choirs, we have dance classes, we have luncheons, we have lectures, we have youth activities, we have ladies activities, etc. So it's a place for community to come and show its best. Sometimes alcohol use is also is necessary for banquet activities, such as members are having their children having wedding or events. So it's part of a very ancillary function of our association. I just want to say that we have had this license for alcohol for the old location for many years. The request is just continuation, just transfer from the old location to the new location. And over the 3 decades that we have existed, we have functioned in the previous location, there has never been any complaint, never any police presence, etc. So it's a very orderly group of people that we are, and our mantra, our mission is enhancement of community and educating our members and public in general for good behavior, being good neighbor. With that, I have also a few comments on the conditions, or if you want to ask questions, but I have a few comments on the conditions of approval.
I do have some questions. Would that be best directed to you first?
With me, I have the architect is here. Mr. Armik Shahnazarian is the architect.
Okay.
Also, I have a member of Board of Trustees, Mr. Thomas Alexanian, is also sitting here. All 3 of us can answer. We can go back and forth and answer the questions. We have some comments on the conditions of approval. If you,
Okay.
maybe you want to hear our comments and then go, maybe we'll clarify some of the questions.
Well, maybe I'll ask a few of the questions first, and then if you want to save some of your specific issues to specific comments, we'll wait to the conditions, we'll maybe, answering some of the questions may address some of that. I think you gave sort of a brief summary of who you are and what the whole purpose of this building is for. I guess, could you describe a little bit more about specifically like the banquet activities, how you see that going? Describe how you think that's going to operate. I understand there's classrooms and all sorts of other things, but just the occasional wedding on the weekend. How do you see the operations of the banquet facilities operating at the site?
Obviously, during the weekdays, we may have lunch and lectures.
Okay.
That's sometimes during the lunchtime. Sometimes, and that goes back to the conditions which will request for modification of the times that were allowed. We will have on weekends, sometimes weddings, members will have their children, their daughters, their sons married, having wedding. We'll have community events such as we may have New Year Eve event. We may have certain occasions that the community will have functions, celebrations. That's what will be for the banquet hall.
Okay. I mean, do you...
There may be some funerals as well. Some of our members...
Okay.
Hopefully not too many, but...
Okay. I guess then maybe during the week, you mentioned maybe having luncheons or lectures or
Yes.
Something of that nature. Would you say that would be more sporadic and maybe the weekends would be a little more consistent?
I would say as far as
activity?
banquet use, yes. Weekends
Okay.
will be more consistent. Weekdays will be, as far as banquet hall,
Right.
will be more sporadic. There'll be, during the weekdays, that's where the bulk of our activities happen, but not necessarily banquet hall.
Okay.
The other rooms are occupied for classrooms, for choir activities, for meetings. Yes, but as far as banquet hall, yes, bulk of activities.
You don't anticipate every Wednesday ladies' lunch, kind of activity being so consistent. It might be a little more sporadic in that
It will be more
sense?
sporadic, although we don't want to discourage. If
Okay.
there'll be, let's say if, for example, Glendale Police Department wants to have a lunch and lecture, they can use our facility. I mean, just as
Okay.
an example, yes. So
Okay.
that, we want to encourage for that type of lunch and lecture activities.
Okay.
At this time, there are not many people who book, but we want to encourage because the community room is available. Yes.
Okay. And it was, I think, noted in the staff presentation that any banquet kind of events would have to be member-sponsored. Can you
Yes.
maybe talk about how that might work?
Essentially,
Or
the way
what
it
the
works.
membership is and how that gets sponsored?
Well, any activity is, I mean, we have right now our functions, it's all member supported. Let's say, I'll just give you an example of a wedding. If a member is having his or her daughter or son getting married, our members are not that young, but hopefully we'll attract younger people, so they will have their own weddings there. But right now, that's how it's sponsored. I mean, a member will be sponsoring that activity.
Okay.
Let's say if you have a function, we're celebrating, let's say 4th of July. So one or two or three members will be the key organizers, and they will be the sponsors of that event.
Okay.
Did I answer the question? Or? And let's say if a luncheon lecture, if is a group, we have various committees or sections within the organizations or committees, and they're normally the ones who sponsor these type of activities. So normally, chairman of that committee or section, or one or two people, they will be the sponsors.
Okay. So you mentioned as an example, if the police department wanted to put some, one-time lecture together, they would have to contact a member.
They will contact the organization, and
Okay.
and we will have multiple liaisons that will work with the police department, and that liaison will be
Okay.
the contact. Yes.
Okay. And then how, I guess, how do you see the alcohol service folding into that? Do you see that really being sort of the weekend wedding type functions that the alcohol
Primarily, yes. I would be very.
service being available as opposed to the ladies' luncheon serving alcohol?
I'll be surprised
It's
that
not
there is-
impossible, but, you know.
Yeah, I'll be surprised that there's be ladies' lunch and there'll be alcohol, or in lunch and lectures.
Okay.
I'll be very, very surprised. It primarily will be over the weekend. There may be certain functions during the weekdays that, let's say, a celebrity is visiting and he or she is here in town only this particular day. It's Tuesday lunch or Tuesday
special
afternoon
occasion.
and special occasion. Then we have to. That will be the exception rather than the rule. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you have a large number of parking spaces that, you have permission to use in I believe it's the Maryland Street garage?
Marketplace.
Or Marketplace garage, that's right adjacent to that. How do you see telling people that may be attending functions that, hey, there's all this parking that's available to be used? How do you think you would communicate with
Via
guests that's an option, that there's all this parking there for their use?
via announcements and invitation letters when we send to people, or emails, etc., or even Facebook. Hopefully, we'll be posting notices about activities and functions. We will notify them where to park. This is becoming pretty standard now. People providing maps, Google Map, where to go, where to park, etc.
And it doesn't appear that, and maybe staff correct me if I'm wrong, a connection between the garage and access to across the alley to sort of the back entrance, if you will.
My understanding is, and the architect can elaborate,
Okay.
we have an agreement. Do you want to come and elaborate about that?
Morning. I'm Shanazarian, the AMAC Group. If I may approach,
Sure.
please. If we take a look at the first floor plan, this is Louise Street, and this is the alley. This area is the rear entry, and then we have a parking attendant place. Okay, so, and then the parking, marketplace parking structure is here, which there's an opening over here, so people coming in.
You need to
We
speak up a
provide
little louder.
If we provide a valet service, we have the parking attendant, which will take care of it.
Okay, but at this time you're not proposing
At
any
this-
valet?
No, but if we
But
do.
there is a connection
There is a
between-
connection between, yes.
There is. I understand that's part of the
There's a
agreement.
connection here. When you go through the garage, you go to the entry, there's a.
Okay. No, I mean, I did go to the side, I did notice the back entrance, I was just,
I understand there is an agreement, MOU, with City of Glendale to make an opening at the market.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
It's planned on the 31st, the opening of that gate to commence, and they promised that it's going to be for in a few days, and it's long overdue.
I think if we can.
Yeah, I will say what he said. There's an agreement with City of Glendale that they'll make a gate at the alley side of the Market Street parking structure.
Okay.
Marketplace, marketplace parking structure, which right across from the southern garage opening of our parking structure. Okay, and as he mentioned, we've been told by the City of Glendale the work will start on April 1st as far as making that opening.
Okay. Thank you. Structure. Okay, I think that was the questions that floated to the top for me. So if there's anything else you want to cover,
Yes.
or any other.
We have a few requests and few comments. Condition number 9, the hours of operations of the multipurpose room, the banquet hall. Friday, Sunday, instead of starting at 10 a.m., we're requesting 8 a.m. And the reason for that is there may be once in a while, some breakfast meetings. One of the conditions of the police department is the alcohol not to be served before 11 a.m., and we're fine with that.
Okay.
But we're requesting that 8 a.m., obviously alcohol would not be served during the breakfast, but once in a while, we don't anticipate that many, but once in a while, there may be some breakfast meetings during.
That would have a banquet hall type.
Banquet hall nature, yes. Yes. We don't anticipate that many. On Monday, Thursday, in the evening, instead of 7 p.m., request to start time to be 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. And that's after the 4 to 6 p.m. when there is the peak traffic period. So instead of 7 p.m., we're requesting 6 p.m.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
Since you're speaking about this, you did mention some luncheon type activities.
Yes, I'll
So-
add that.
Okay, so I mean.
And lunches, we're requesting 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. also be allowed, Monday to Thursday.
Did you say 2:30?
2:30 p.m., yes. I have a comment on condition number 12 as well, if I can go to that.
Sure.
The police department has the number of security guards they're requesting is not consistent with the nature of our use. I mean, let's say if there's a private wedding of 300 people, we may end up having 6 security guards, which is excessive. This is not a nightclub activity, as staff mentioned. This is a kind of multi-purpose ancillary function, and we're requesting a security guard for every 100 patrons as opposed to 50 patrons. So, as I said before, to be consistent with our what we're doing. And the evidence is the last 30 years, over 30 years we functioned in the previous location. There hasn't been any problem, police visiting the site, etc.
Did you have any security guards?
We always have security guards, but
that
not
location?
but not that excessive. Yes.
Okay.
I would comment also on condition number 28. The staff's position was that the MOU is for 5 years, and after 5 years, because the ASLA can sell the property, so the CUP to be for 5 years only. Our request is that if ASLA doesn't sell the property and nothing changes, there is no need to come back and apply for CUP. There will be automatic extension for 10 years.
So you're requesting that if granted, the validity of this be extended.
Yes.
Do you anticipate selling the property in 5 years?
We don't anticipate selling the property in 5 years because we anticipate this to attract more members and attract younger generations and engage them with the cultural activities. One more comment I just want to make. It's kind of related to the conditions of approval. It kind of relates to condition number 13. We are going to apply to Glendale Fresh Air to make the building a smoke-free Glendale Fresh Air building.
Okay.
We will coordinate with the ambassador for Glendale Fresh Air to identify a designated smoking area that is acceptable to meet the criteria of Glendale Fresh Air. Yeah, that's That's what we intend to do. And we will welcome that if you will add that to the conditions.
Okay, I think that Chapter 8.52 is the
Yes.
fresh air ordinance. Okay,
Very well. Any?
thank you. Okay, that was served. I have a card for Armick. Do you want to say anything, just in case of questions? Okay, the next card I have is for Philip.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for your hard work on this matter. My name is Philip Pirio, and I reside at 740 Portola Avenue, Glendale, California. I've been a resident of Glendale for 35 years, and am pleased and proud to state that I am a Glendalian. So, I wanted to make a couple of comments about this conditional use request. I am a member of the Elder Board at the Glendale Presbyterian Church.
Your comments to,
Oh, okay.
just direct your comments to the hearing officer.
I
won't be making.
I have a habit of looking around. So, but I am a member of the Elder Board of Glendale Presbyterian Church. My sole and single issue is really with the safety. It is one of safety. And I refer to the required findings of fact, sections B and E, paragraph 3, in that it states that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, general welfare, or the environment. I would differ with that in terms of its potentiality. And then item 3 under section E, that the existing and proposed use does not or will not adversely impact any church, public or private school, college, daycare facility, library, hospital, residential use within the surrounding area. And I would differ with that as well. And I would differ with that because by nature of what we do as the church, for example, on Sundays, we have people there from 7 until 8 or 9 in the evening. We serve and allow facility use to 2 other congregations. One is an Armenian congregation and one is an Arabic congregation. They also have activities not only on Sunday, but during the week as well, at varied hours. It's difficult to find an empty room in our facility during that time, any day of the week. Fair enough, the school is only there during the day, and the students are only there during the day. So from a school point of view, yeah, fair enough. But from a use of our facility as a church, we are serving those 2 congregations, our congregation, our members, and as I say, it's a very, very busy place during the week. The hours of operation, and I guess I would look at that specifically on Sunday, the 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Banquet hall only use. That's clearly when we do the majority of activities at Glendale Presbyterian Church, and that property is completely filled. And my concern is this, that, and I appreciate the efforts to supply security guards, and I personally don't think that's an excessive requirement. However, I would say that there are severe safety issues in my view, and the public, the city has a responsibility to protect its citizens, in my view, and I have a responsibility as a member of that board to try to make sure that we have, as much as possible, secured the safety of our congregation, its members, the members of the other 2 congregations. So those are my issues. And I am very concerned about the use of alcohol. We know it impairs judgment. We know that it, and I, by the way, have no objections personally to the moderate use of alcohol. However, I know that in a party situation, things can get out of hand. Security guards are not. But we have a lot of people in the area that could be impacted adversely, and I just wanted to state that opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next card I have is for Lauren Ross.
Hello, good morning.
morning.
I'm here representing the Glendale Presbyterian Church. As you were made aware, there was a settlement agreement in November of 2008 between the Glendale CRA, the Presbyterian Church, and the Armenian Society of Los Angeles that stated lots of terms for alcohol usage or service, and it also explicitly had a prohibition against the sale and distribution of alcohol. And while I think the draft CUP conditions did an excellent job of incorporating several of those conditions that were in the settlement agreement, namely where the alcohol can be consumed and served, and that the events need to be sponsored by an ASLA member, it left out the language about prohibiting the sale and the distribution of alcohol. While I understand now kind of where the language of the sale, service, and consumption came from, we still believe that in order to not be any ambiguity and in order to be consistent with the 2008 settlement agreement, that the use of sale in that sale, consumption, and service language should be removed, and or also having a provision that explicitly states that the sale and distribution is prohibited, just so it's clear and there's no ambiguities, and to remain consistent. The other inconsistency I found in regards to the alcohol conditions in the settlement agreement was in Section 6B2 of the settlement agreement. It requires that ASLA member who is sponsoring the event also include in the condition of that event, the literature for it, that there will be a prohibition of sale of alcohol. So it's just including that language to make it consistent with the 2008 settlement agreement, not asking for anything more than what's already in that agreement. Let's see. Another thing just along similar lines, I believe in Condition 20 of the draft CUP, guests of the banquet hall events are referred to as customers. Since the sale isn't permitted, we think that should be changed to guests rather than customers, just so there, again, is no ambiguity about who will be on site for those banquet hall activities. And then also safety, as other members have stated, is a concern. And while we understand that the parking situation will be in that rear parking structure, and that if and when they do have valet service, it will be through the alley, we think until the time that that crosswalk, I believe, is proposed to go in on Louise, until that's in place and other safety measures are in place, that ideally the banquet hall facility status be postponed just until the safety measures are there, because people will be driving on Louise trying to find the entrance to the parking, find the valet if and when valet is used. So even though everything is behind the building, people will not know right away to go behind the building, and they'll even more congest Louise and potentially cause traffic and safety concerns for the pedestrians there, at the preschool, at the church, at the Armenian Society building as well. And then just in response to the comments from the Armenian Society spokesman regarding the new hours of operation, I guess it was 10 a.m. on Sunday, we would like a little bit more time to review those new times before any final decision would be made. Right now, I believe it's in opposition to what the 2008 settlement agreement says, but again, we'd like to confirm that. And also, as stated earlier, the church's activities on Sunday begin very early, so we just, again, want to deal with safety of all the citizens there and have time to review the impact that those suggested hours of operation would have on the church members and the neighbors in the surrounding area. And let's see.
Actually, if you could just wrap up.
Yes, I think that's about it. But again, in the same regards to the security guards, we appreciated that additional language in the conditional use permit and hope to have it stay there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next card I have is for Hugh Kilpatrick.
I believe the points I wanted to make have been.
Okay, thank you. Next card I have is for Edvard. And last card I have is for Tom Alexanian.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Alexanian. I'm the trustee board member for Armenian Society of Los Angeles. All the points were made. I just want to say that we are a very abiding citizens. Our track record shows for the past 30 years that in the Brand Boulevard, or even for this short period of time that I've been in this location, we're glad to be neighbor with the church, and we hope that we will have a good neighborly relationship, and we will work together to make sure that everyone will function the way that they're supposed to. And as I said, for the past 30 years, we had all kinds of activities in our previous location, and never even once we had a police call or any irregular activities. Plus the fact that I think the law enforcement is for that, so any violation, if there would be, it will be dealt with accordingly. So by saying that, I hope that you will grant our the permit, and we will continue as we have done in the past 30 years in Glendale. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have no other speaker cards. I'll give the applicant a chance to come back, and if you'd like, address anything that the speaker said.
Yes. One comment was made on behalf of a member of Elder Board of Glendale Presbyterian Church. The concern was safety, and I understand that they have a large number of people, but we as a society have functioned for many decades, and our track record is a very consistent that we are not a cause for safety concern. I mean, if you look at our past and make a decision about how we're, I mean, that's a good indicator of how we're going to behave in the future. So I understand that there was, sometimes people use alcohol, but we've been a well-behaved group of people in the past 3 decades, and we maintain a certain standard of behavior in our society, in our organization, and we're going to do that, and self-discipline has been part of our activity, and this is why we've been successful in that regard. This is why we have such a track record. The other issue was that status of this banquet hall be delayed. As Lauren Ross made that comment, because there's no reason to delay that. When we send invitations to people, we can very specifically state where the parking, provide instructions to people where to park, and that with the modern technology, emails, even invitation letters, Facebook, etc., that's very easy to send multiple messages to people where to park, how to congregate, etc. So I don't think that's going to be any issue. I don't have any other comments.
How about the question about earlier hours of
On
operation for Sunday?
Sunday. We don't anticipate that many hours activities on Sunday mornings, quite frankly. That's, for us, is not a significant issue.
Okay.
We may, as far as Sunday morning goes, it's not a significant issue for us. We don't anticipate too many people gathering. It just would, the main banquet activity will be at nighttime.
Okay.
There may be a few times per year we may have a certain function Sunday morning, maybe Easter morning. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
That some people may want to bring their children for to play with eggs, etc. That's Sunday morning. I mean, once in a while, that's some religious function. I don't anticipate many other Sunday activities. But we like, let's say, Easter or Christmas, some Sunday activity. We like to have some activity to have maybe children coming over there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that that concludes all of the speaker cards and the hearing. I will take this case under submission. The hearing is now officially closed.